This is Talk the Home of Common Sense. Well, it's a small matter of trying to defend the realm from either migrants or from, the Russian invading hordes, but also a small matter of dealing with smoking, because that's the stuff that really matters to an awful lot of people who are trying to control everything that we do. And what they wanted to do was get us off cigarettes. So a lot of people who smoke moved on to vapes. Some of them moved on to disposable vapes, and then they decided they weren't good either. So as of Sunday, there is a ban on disposable vapes, and it's actually, and if you don't recycle and if you've still got some in your cupboards, you could be prosecuted for that. But could this ban on disposable vapes actually, well, have the opposite effect and turn people back to cigarettes? Let's talk to Chris Snowdon. He's head of lifestyle economics at the Institute of Economic Affairs, the free market think tank, and ask him. Good afternoon to you, Chris.
Hello, Julia.
Thank you for joining us. There were lots of different reasons given for the disposable vape ban. One was, vaping's bad. Cigarettes bad, but vaping also bad. And it was the littering, and then it was the recycling and these bits of plastic and batteries, and they're being littered everywhere. But also it's very bad for the environment that these stuff they're used once and then thrown away. Do you think they actually ever decided which was the actual reason, or is it still all three for the ban?
They used environmental legislation to bring about the ban, so I guess in theory it was primarily an environmental thing, which, by the way, could have been dealt with by using some kind of deposit scheme, I think.
For people to return.
Talking about the deposit scheme with bottles and cans, which actually wouldn't be very cost effective, but with disposable vapes it could well have been. So yeah, it's primarily that, but I think as time goes on, people will be framing it more and more as an anti-vaping policy in general, because people are going to want to have more and more anti-vaping policies. And that's one of the main reasons I object to this, is I've learned over the years not to give these people an inch.
Yeah, well, you're the one who's been talking about the slippery slope. And I mean, I was in favour of the smoking ban. I don't like cigarettes. I don't smoke. 2007, I was absolutely thrilled I could go to the pub and not be coming home absolutely stinking of other people's smoke. But I've told you this many times over the years, persuaded me of the slippery slope on these things, because vaping was at first hailed as, a brilliant alternative to smoking. People who wanted to smoke but didn't want the health risk, which are huge with smoking, would turn to vaping. It's been one of the biggest success stories in terms of getting people off cigarettes, has it not?
Yeah, it has. It's been absolutely
Even
incredible.
you?
Even me, exactly, years ago now. So we are throwing the baby out with the bathwater now with this. I mean, what happened was, yes, loads of people like me did give up smoking, and lots of people have probably never started smoking because they vaped instead. But it's those people, the never smokers, and there are far fewer underage vapers actually than you might think from reading the papers.
Oh, we're told, isn't it, like 1 in 5 kids have vaped and
maybe tried it once in their lives. But if you look at the number of kids who are actually using them on a regular basis, it's really small.
Yeah.
1 or 2%, I think.
And probably no more than would smoked anyway.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's reasonable to say that most, if not all, of the kids who are vaping, although we don't condone it, would probably be smoking otherwise. And indeed, that might well be one of the consequences of banning disposable vapes. That you've got people like, for example, Claire Fox, who gave up smoking quite recently by using disposable vapes, doesn't really like other forms of vapes. There's a risk that they are going to go back to smoking, and certainly some of the younger people. We know from survey evidence that a significant proportion say they will definitely go back to smoking. 20% say they will go back to smoking. So this is not a great move in terms of public.
But wasn't the argument that it was younger people, it was kids who were buying vapes, and that they, because they were cheaper, because they were single use, and that was getting more kids into vaping? It seemed to me that, can't you just enforce the law that makes it illegal to sell to under 18s, in which a nice big 50 grand fine for a few shopkeepers might focus the minds very, very quickly? Plus the littering issue. Why don't we start actually prosecuting people for littering? I watch people litter in front of police officers who do absolutely nothing. I mean, God, if they'd misgendered the litter, then they would have been prosecuted, wouldn't they, or to tweet about it? But it seems we've got in a law to deal with something where there are actually laws already in place to deal with all of those issues.
Yeah, it's a classic example of something you see all the time now, which is the state unable to or unwilling to enforce existing laws, and therefore politicians respond by basically banning things again. Or banning something else that's related to it. We don't ban the sale of alcohol just because some kids consume alcohol. What we try and do is we enforce the law on selling the sale of alcohol, and indeed cigarettes. It's really quite hard now for kids to get hold of cigarettes legally, at least, and indeed many of them are not even getting hold of the vapes themselves legally. There's a very, very large part of the market, even before yesterday's ban, that was made up of illicit vapes, and that will definitely go up next year when this big vape tax comes in. So we're just digging ourselves a bigger and bigger hole here, rather than just trying to enforce the perfectly reasonable laws we already had.
It is utterly bizarre how wrong they get it. But again, this all comes down, this is all the nanny state. It's anti-smoking, it's anti-alcohol, constantly telling people, you know, lower and lower. You know, I mean, you go to the doctor, how many units do you drink a week? I don't know, what's the latest rule? What's this week's rule about what's safe? And then we're told about, you know, what we can eat. I mean, pretty much every single thing they're trying to control in our lives. Is it because they just think we're all stupid?
Yes, the people in public health certainly do, but I think for governments, it's there's an element of displacement about it. I mean, Britain is more or less a failed state now. France is also a failed state. They introduced this or announced this ban on outdoor smoking on Friday. Then the following day, Paris is up in flames. People are dying because of raucous celebrations, as The Guardian described them, after a football match. You know, this is anarcho-tyranny. We are just pouring more and more stupid and petty legislation onto the dwindling number of law-abiding people while we watch rampant lawlessness throughout society.
That's a very, very good point, Chris Snowdon. So appreciate you joining us. I know you've been fantastic on this issue. He's from the Institute of Economic Affairs. Sam Armstrong, I mean, honestly, Chris has totally persuaded me on the slippery slope argument. I still want to be able to go to a pub and a restaurant and not have cigarette smoke blown in my face. I'll stick to that one. But they do just want to supposedly protect us from everything, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, today's whole show, I mean, we've got war round the corner. We've got tens of thousands of people pouring into this country illegally. We've got no idea. We've got a blasphemy law back, but it's okay because we're going to ban vaping at pubs anytime
It's just
now.
not the issue. But again, like, I mean, in my day, kids were sniffing glue. I'm thinking vaping is... We were one of the few countries that were sane on vaping, and actually NHS endorsing it, saying it's not completely safe, absolutely not, but it's a darn sight safer than cigarettes. So if those are the options, we choose vaping over cigarettes. I know so many people who have given up cigs because of vaping.
So there's a study out today that says a third of pubs are on the verge of closing down any day now. And what does this government want to do? It wants to make it more difficult to sit outside in a pub garden, have a cigarette, sit around and have a vape.
Absolute madness.